Welcome to this Friday's video review of the TrueBrake mod from the guys at AXC Sim. Actually, I think it might just be one guy, it might just be Rob. I'm not 100% sure, I haven't checked. But as you will know from last week's video, if you saw that, I had this sent over from Rob for me to try out and to review for you guys, and that was off the back of a video where I was sort of complaining about the way it was marketed, which again, I'm going to say has been corrected and been put right, and to be a lot clearer, so there's less confusion as to whether you're buying a low sale conversion, which you're not, which was a little unclear in the first place. But yeah, big shout out to Rob for first of all sending this over for me to try. And as I said in the first video, this could well be the best brake pedal modification that there exists for the Logitech G series of pedals. I said that in the very first video, and you know, looking at it so far, it's looking really good. I'm yet to use it, of course, but so far it looks really, really good. And again, in that first video, I had no issue with the product. You know, it wasn't a review. I wasn't talking about how it performs or how it works or how it fits or anything, because I hadn't got one. All I was saying was I wasn't happy with the way the marketing made it look like a low sale conversion, which of course we all want in our pedals if we can and if we can afford to, when of course it wasn't. It was potentiometer based. And again, if you want to see the difference between a load cell and a potentiometer, go watch last week's video because I explained that there. But that's all been cleared up. It's been described, you know, correctly now, and there's less confusion. So let's get on with this review. So this is the box as it arrives. I'll open it up for you. We do a very quick unboxing because it's not the most interesting of, you know, things for people to watch. Unboxing, that is. Well, I don't know, actually some people like unboxing videos. Here's the main unit in a little bag. Let's get it out of here. Now, the first thing I noticed is the machining quality. It is machined very, very nicely. The finish is excellent. It feels weighty, which is always, you know, a sign of quality. We've got the AXC Sim logo, if you can see that embossed on there. You know, I'm seeing we've got a circlip at the bottom. We've got some Allen bolts around the place, and then we've got this Teflon tape around each side. Now, to be clear, you don't remove that tape. It's added in as a form of lubricant, for want of a better description, to allow it to slide smoothly in and out of the plastic upper housing from the original Logitech setup. So that Teflon tape, or Teflon impregnated tape, is supposed to be there. Don't remove it. And then we've got our 3-pin connector, which we plug the original Logitech wiring harness into. There's the bolt that goes through the bottom in there, and then we'll have, what else have we got here? We've got another bag of goodies, and what we have in here, if I can get the bag open, is our main return, or it's not, I wouldn't call it a main return spring. There's a spring inside of here that you can't see, and then this goes on the top. So the two springs together act to return the pedal. But this is the softer spring. That's going to be your initial part of the travel. And then there's a stronger spring inside there. Now, in between those goes, and there's a handful of them, so just give me a sec to get them out, goes one of these. You can choose whichever one you want, and they are what they call a buffer. And I believe, looking at the diagram, again, I haven't looked at this beforehand, yeah, this goes on the top here, like that, and then you've got your spring that goes on the top there, and then there is this little plate here that also goes on the top. Now, in the G29 and G920 pedals, there is a white plate similar to this already in the pedals. You need to pop that out with a screwdriver. In the G25 and G27 pedals, there isn't one, so you would just pop this in as it is, slide it up in there. But this is what we've got. So you can see we've got that first softer bit of travel there, and then the spring inside here gives us our final bit of travel, and we've got our little buffer in the middle here as well. So this will fully compress down. Let me remove the spring and show you. This will compress the spring, and then it will hit there, and that's when it firms up really hard and starts to move the spring underneath. Now, as I say, there's there's different ones of those, and you can see the differences here. It's literally in the height of the rubber section. So that is your buffer. That's your squishy bit, so to speak, in between the first spring. Once you've taken up that movement, the bottom of this then hits the top of the rubber there, which then starts pushing that main spring in the body of the device. So that is how it looks all ready to be installed in my pedals. Now, as I say, the quality looks really good. What also is really good is the amount of thought that Rob has put into this. You know, this isn't just swapping a spring out one for another like you might do with the GTI spring upgrades. Now, previously, the GTI springs are my favorite. I mentioned that in the first video, but they're just a single spring upgrade. What we've got here, there's so much more to it. So much more thought, so much more design, and I imagine a lot of time was spent, trial and error, getting this all correct and to work exactly how we wanted it to work. So, you know, it's looking really, really good. You know, and it was at £54, I think, and you can already see how that price is justified by the amount of components, the quality of the machining work, and the amount of thought that's gone into this. So as I said in that very first video, where I wasn't happy with the marketing, I said this could well be the best brake pedal mod there is to date for the Logitech series. And it's, you know, it's starting to look that way. Actually, I'll tell a lie. There is another one called Perfect Pedal. I might put a screenshot of that up now, actually, just for fun. It's $250, I believe. Which is just a joke, because even though it is actually a hydraulic setup with a pressure sensor for the hydraulics, it moves fluid like a real brake pedal. Who would spend £250 on just a brake pedal modification? For that money, you can buy a second-hand Fanatic set of pedals. So I don't really know why you do it. Although actually, there was one guy in the comments last week, a week before last, sorry, that said he had this Perfect pedal. So he obviously spent that money. You know, you must really like those Logitech pedals to want to spend that sort of money just on a brake pedal upgrade. But yeah, aside from the Perfect pedal as it's described upgrade, which is, in my opinion, too much money to spend on these sort of pedals, this certainly looks to be the best I've seen so far. But the proof, as always, is in the pudding. So let's or in the eating. Proof in the pudding, proof in the eating, you eat the pudding, I don't know, whatever it is. Anyway, we get it installed and we try it out. So let's get the camera moved down to where those pedals are in bits, and we'll get this bad boy installed and go from there. Okay, let's get this installed then. Now you can see my pedals are already in pieces from the video I recorded earlier for last Friday, so I'm doing it all in one go, where I was demonstrating how the potentiometer works. Now, because they're in pieces, what you've missed me do is removing this, which is what slides through here. Oh, can you see that? Basically, that goes in there, and those two screws you see there are what hold it in place. My cat is back making a row again. Ori, be quiet, I'm trying to make a video. So yeah, that's all you've missed me do. And if you want to see how to undo these pedals to get to this stage, there's about 1,000 videos on YouTube showing you that, but it's really very simple. Take the face plates off the pedals using whatever size Allen key that is. I think it's 3mm. And then undo about 400 silver screws from the underneath that allow this piece to then fall out. Just being careful not to tear these wires out, because they are held in by a little clip to the top side of the plastic cowling. So pedal faces, pedal faces. Take the faces off the pedals, then undo 1,000 little silver screws, not the ones that hold the pedals in position. You don't need to do those. You'll see them, they're quite different. I think they might even be a different color. Should we have a quick look? Yeah, they're black. So yeah, just undo the silver ones after you've taken the pedal faces off, and carefully lift the plastic cowling off and undo the little clip that holds that. And then you'll get to where I am here after undoing the little screws at the end of this little bushing that you see, and that will let you take that off. The white bit that you just saw fly past the camera is what sits in the bottom here, and what AXC Sim to prise out with a screwdriver, because it just pops out. And then what you're going to be replacing that with is this piece here. That's going to go, in fact, well, let's see if we can see. You might just be able to make out the sort of triangle shape. Well, it's not a triangle. What's the right word for it? Looks like a boomerang shape. That matches this boomerang shape in here. So I'm going to assume that that's going to go and just sort of lock into place that way. So let's just drop that in there. It's going to be interesting how we get that to, oh yeah, actually slotted straight on. That was lucky, wasn't it? You can imagine though, that you might have to spin that round a couple of times for it to fall into place. For me, it's gone straight in, which is a real bit of luck. So the next thing we do, we undo 10mm nut and 5mm Allen key. I've slackened them off already. Just undo that, take the nut out of the way. Slot, oh, you bastard. Is it gonna go past? So the little bolt that goes through doesn't look like it's quite going to clear this little piece of webbing that's there to strengthen the pedal deck, you might say. So let's grab our Phillips screwdriver, and it looks like we are going to have to at least slacken off the screws that hold the brake pedal in place to allow that to lift up and clear. That's interesting. I thought I was being clever there, because in the instructions to install this, it shows you taking the pedal all the way out, and I was like, oh, I don't think I need to do that. I can see what I'm doing, but oh yes, because then also, can you see that? It hits the other one there. So yeah, follow the instructions, guys. Don't try and be a cocky twat. Oh, although, that's come out. We'll see. Maybe we can sneak the new one past. If not, I'll be undoing those screws the rest of the way. Anyway, I don't think we need any of that anymore. So let's grab our TrueBrake assembly here. Now, as I mentioned earlier, we've got a whole variety of these. And from reading the instructions, they determine your free play or dead zone before the pedal actually starts to register an input. Now, from a realism point of view, dead zone on braking doesn't really exist unless you've got a problem with the brakes on your car. Now, older cars, you might feel a little bit more movement before you feel any braking effect, but newer cars, the brakes are incredibly sharp, and the lightest touch of the pedal and you'll start braking. I mean, I work on cars for a living, and I get in and out of all different cars throughout the day. And, you know, I work on some old classic Fords from the 80s. Their brakes are not very sharp. Getting something that's 3 years old, and I almost headbutt the steering wheel every time I press the brake pedal because they're so sharp. And the way brakes actually work, they transfer fluid from one place to another. So that there's very, very little what I'm going to call dead zone, where it doesn't actually do anything at all. So I'm going to go with the smallest one. So basically almost no dead zone, because I think in my mind that's going to be the most realistic. So that's going to be this one here with the shortest little bit of rubber on. But first, let's just see if we can get this over. Oh yeah, that's fine. Okay, so yeah, you can just slacken off the 4 screws on the underneath versus actually removing the whole pedal if you want to. As you know, it's not hard to undo them and take the whole thing off if you want, but as you can see there, you don't actually have to. So what we do next, we put our buffer on and then our spring. We've got the metal piece in the top there already. I think that's everything. That slides over there like that. And then we want this piece that I'd already taken out. We don't want the screws in the end because that's not going to work. Slide that into there. Excuse me. Bring it into position here. And then there's ever such a slight little bit of pressure I can feel from the top spring, which you will need to just overcome to get these to line up. And that's good because it means there is no actual play in the modification itself, because you wouldn't want that. Not by design, anyway. And then we just put these two screws back in. Now, I'm just going to do this all sort of finger tight for now because you'll all get bored watching me do up nuts and bolts. So that is it in position, and what I can feel is our first stage, which I'm not sure whether that means this stage registers no input until we hit that buffer, and then we start getting an input. I'm not sure. Well, we'll see in a second, because I'll go back to the control panel on the computer and we'll see whether this first piece of movement actually does anything or not. But first of all, you need to put the wires, you need to plug the wires in. Now, AXC Sim have very kindly used the same colour wires here as they have on here, so it's easy to do. You've got red, white and black. Excuse me again. So all we're going to do is unplug them one at a time. Now, they do suggest you use needle nose pliers, and I can now see why. I don't have any here, so I'm going to try and prise it off with a screwdriver, and we'll see how that works. If it works. Maybe I should find some pliers. Oh, no. There we go, there's one. Oh yeah, on a tool related note, in case you're interested, I'm using my trusty Halford's toolkit that I picked up on special offer the other week, that I also did a review of. So if you need a toolkit and you're in the UK, it's definitely a good one to have. It's got Allen keys, spanners, sockets, ratchets, Torx bits, everything. Great little kit. No needle nose pliers though. Typical. So anyway, that's one off. Now these wires are quite small here, so be careful not to tug on the wires if you don't have needle nose pliers. Well, that one came off nice and easy as well. So yeah, as you can see, you can use a little flat-headed screwdriver. There we go. And they've all come off relatively easily. Oh, and my Logitech is now recalibrating itself. It's obviously detected something's up. So let's match up the wires. Let's go red to red. That's that one there. And be careful not to bend these pins to allow them to touch. So we've got red, white and black in that order. You probably can't see what I'm doing here because my hands are in the way of the camera, but I'll show you in a second. Let's get the white one plugged in, and then finally the black one plugged in. Cool. So I don't know how well you're going to see that, but there's those three little spade connectors, and two of them are almost touching just there. So they're not, and they're never going to, because they're not going to move. But just be aware of that and don't bend them in any way to allow them to touch. So we've disconnected that potentiometer. We are now plugged into the TrueBrake potentiometer, and that means we can fire up the control panel on the computer and have a look whether that first bit of travel actually does anything or not. So let's bring this up. Let's start some screen capture. So that's that fired up. Hopefully now I shall transition to that and keep this in a little small window so you can see. So, okay, so yeah, there's basically as much as you can see. So what, there. So from there to there, there's a very small amount of travel. If we look at the bottom of the cylinder here and reference the Teflon impregnated tape, you can see how far it moves from the start position to there. So what are we with? If I put my thumb there, that's our travel before anything actually happens. So we've got about 4 mil of travel before the computer actually registers an input. So let's try and push it really hard, shall we? Just Oh, yeah, that's pretty firm, and 100%. Yeah, I can hit 100% with my hand, even though I am on a puff here, which is quite squishy. But yeah, it feels nice and firm. It feels good under my hand. Let's see, we'll see if it feels just as good under my feet as well. So that's basically that installed. I won't show you putting the rest of this back together because you don't need to see it. I'll tighten everything up, I'll put the top back on, and then over the next few days, I'll spend some time driving with it in my favourite sims. And then in the next section of the video, a few days will have passed and I'll come back and I'll tell you exactly what I think of it. So I'll see you guys in a minute, or you'll see me in a minute. I'll see you in a few days. Take it easy. Okay, so I've had best part of a week now to play with the TrueBrake from AXC Sim, and you're all probably itching to know what I think about it. Before we get into that, just a quick thing to say, those of you that might just navigate away after you've got through the meat of the review, hang around till the end because I've got an idea that I want to share with everybody. And I think it's worth listening to. So hang around to the end for that last little bit. Anyway, back to the review of this. Now, it's back out of my rig, ready to go back to Rob. Now, Rob didn't ask for me to send it back, but he said it was his personal one that he sent me, so I guess he's currently without, along with everyone else waiting for stock to come in. So I don't actually have any need of this, so I'm going to send it back to him because, you know, why keep hold of it when I don't really need it, and other people could benefit from it, or, you know, it could go back in his own setup. So that's back out, it's ready to go. But I'll spend some time playing all of my favourite sims, everything from rally driving to kart racing. So I've gone for a broad spectrum of sims to test this out, and let's get, you know, down to the meat of it. It's a great modification. It's a really good modification. Everything I said in the beginning of the video about the build quality and all that, it's all really, really good. No complaints whatsoever. But is it for every Logitech owner? And that's an interesting question. And I'm going to say no, it isn't. And let me go on to explain why that is. So if you've already got a Logitech G920 or G29, you're probably familiar with the two biggest complaints about the pedals that come with them. The first one is everyone says the brake pedal's too hard, that last little bit with the rubber insert, you can't hit 100% braking force, it's too hard, it's too hard, it's too hard. Now, if you're in, you know, a play seat challenge or any fold away chair, the X-Rocker one would be the same, even the Next Level Racing FGT Lite. These fold away chairs, if you press the brake pedal or any pedal really hard, the middle of the chairs lift up off the ground. So basically the back of your chair tilts backwards, lifting the front of your fold away seat up. And that is, of course, no use whatsoever. Now, I did a video 2 weeks ago showing people how to cure this with the original Logitech G29 and G920 pedal setup, and it's really simple. I'll put a link to that video in the end cards of this one. Because what a lot of people do is take the pedals apart, take out that piece of rubber and swap it for something softer, or they just take it out altogether. And I don't think that's the right thing to do, because I like a pretty firm brake pedal, which is what this is, I'm going to go on to say. So that's the first thing. If you don't like a hard brake pedal, like the original G29 and G920, you're not going to like this, because I would say it is similarly hard. I almost, it's hard, you know, obviously it's not that easy to swap back from one to the other, got to take all the pedals apart. But I would say it almost feels pretty much the same as the original setup as far as how hard you have to press the pedal. Now the original one, obviously you've got all that that travel before you get to that hard rubber. With this, you don't have that. But once you get to that rubber, and the bit that everyone complains about is it's too hard to press, that's how hard that is. So if you don't like your G920 or G29 already because of how hard it is to push that last, you know, ½ inch of movement, you're not going to like this, because it is just as hard to press the pedal. And the other thing that people complain about with the Logitech series of pedals, G920, is that they added like an acceleration curve on the brake pedal, rather than it being linear. So when you get to a certain point in the travel of the pedal, the amount of braking force doesn't continue to just increase at a steady state, like a straight line. There's an upward curve, it accelerates the force. So where you moved a little bit and got a little bit of braking up to this point, you now move a little bit and you get a lot more braking effect. Now, a lot of people really don't like that and would rather have a linear brake, which is exactly the same. You know, you press it a little bit, it brakes a little bit, you press a little bit more, it brakes a little bit more, all the way down to the full extent of the travel. I hope that was clear. I hope you get what I mean. So this, being as it's just a potentiometer, you know, in here essentially, and plugged straight in, it's still utilising that accelerated braking curve, braking force curve that's inbuilt with the Logitech G29 and G920 pedals. So for people that don't like a hard pedal and don't like that non-linear braking curve at the end, you're not going to like this. And also, if you don't have, going back to the chair lifting up, if you've got a fold-away chair, basically, if you don't have a fixed cockpit, a proper rig to bolt your pedals to, if you've got a fold-away chair, it's going to lift up. If you're sat at a desk like I am now and you've got your steering wheel bolted to the desk, your desk chair is just going to get pushed away or tipped over. And if you've got a wheel stand, you know, GT Omega or Next Level Racing wheel stand using, you know, a dining room chair or some other chair, that's just going to tip back as well. As I say, it's just how it is with the original G29 and G920 pedals. This is just as hard to press. So if you're someone that's got a fold-away seat, a wheel stand, or you're racing desk mounted, and you've already got those problems, don't buy this thinking this will be better. You're still gonna have the same problems. I mean, the overall thing is better, but you're still gonna have the same issue where you're going, bloody hell, I can't press the pedal all the way down, can't press it hard enough, because my chair's folding backwards, I'm going to fall over, you know, because my play seat's lifting up in the middle or whatever it might be. So for those people, this is not the mod to get, in my opinion. Like I said, I did a video a couple of weeks ago on how to cure those 3 issues for your standard setup, but that's fine because there's plenty of travel in the original setup. With this, there is very little travel compared to the original setup. So if you were to install that and then try and use my method from a couple of weeks ago to recalibrate the pedal to be just as hard as you need it to be, how can I word that better? I show you how to calibrate the pedal to the maximum force you want to apply. So you do it in Windows control panel, or you can do it in game as well. And that way you don't have to press the pedal all the way down to get 100% braking force because you calibrated it to where you need to press it. You could do that again with this, but what would be the point? You just bought a modification that shortens the travel and gives you a firm pedal, you know, equal to what you already had if you had a G920 or G29. What would be the point in buying this and then calibrating out that, you know, that extra weight at the end and that last little bit of travel? It wouldn't make any sense, would it? And also, because this travels so much less in the first place, to calibrate out some of that travel isn't going to leave you with a lot. You know, you're going to have a couple of mil of movement before you're off and then at 100%. So if you're someone that's got a play seat, an X-Rocker, an FGT light, a wheel stand, a desk mounted setup, probably not for you. Now, the people who it will benefit are people with a full cockpit with your pedals bolted down. That way you can absorb the awesomeness that is the TrueBrake modification. Much, much less travel. I mean, it must be 50 to 75% less travel, I would say, without actually measuring it. So that's really good. And then that last bit of the travel, that secondary spring, very, very similar to that rubber insert in your original pedal setups. It really hardens up and you don't have to move it very far at all to modulate your braking. Again, because it's using that accelerated braking curve from Logitech. Again, I'm a fan of this. I like the rubber insert. I like the accelerated curve. It allows you to modulate with less movement. This builds upon that by reducing the travel even further, allowing you to modulate even better and even more accurately. So for those of us with a full cockpit, with your Logitech pedals bolted down, this is definitely a good modification to have. If you're someone with, you know, the fold-away seats like a minute ago, not much help, to be honest. Or if you're someone that just doesn't like a heavy pedal, you know, maybe you think the original one's too heavy even though you've got it bolted to a cockpit, again, probably not the modification for you. It's just as heavy, just as hard to press. So that really, I suppose, is the end of the review. It is a great product. It's been well thought out, it's been well designed, it's been well machined, it's been well put together, it's well packaged. Rob seems like a lovely chap, and it functions really, really well if you like a heavy pedal with little travel and you're bolted to a cockpit. If you're not those three things, I wouldn't recommend this modification. Perhaps go, if you're looking for something middle ground, you know, go with the GTI springs or some of the other brands of springs out there. There's a few. If you just want a little bit of extra, you know, resistance. So that's really the end of the review. Now, as I say, I'll be sending this back to Rob. Rob, thank you very much for getting this out to us. I do appreciate it. Now, while I was playing around with this over the last week or so, it's given me an idea. Because ultimately what this modification does is reduce travel, increase braking pressure, perhaps a touch from the off and right through to the end of the travel as well. Now, this gave me a little idea, and I think I've come up with a way where we can do this and achieve very, very similar results for absolutely nothing. Now, you're going to be thinking, what? How is that possible? Well, hopefully by next Friday, when my video comes out, I'll have tried out what I've got in mind. I've kind of semi-tried it out now, and so far it looks like it's going to work. And so far, it feels very similar to what we have here. Not to take away from this product, this is a great product. If you want a hard brake pedal with little travel, you know, and that accelerator curve, you're going to love it, and you should definitely buy one. But I think I found a way to give very, very similar results, literally for free. So tune in next week, and hopefully I'll be taking you through how to do that. If next week's video isn't how to do that, it's because it didn't work and it was just a fail. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the review. Any questions, stick them in the comments. Thanks to Rob at AXC Sim for this. I will get it back to you. And thanks everybody for watching. I'll catch you all in the next one. Have a nice weekend.